of America is being squandered. How are we going to restore our nation back to a sensible, citizen-centric government?
This is my country. I'm proud to call it home. This is my country. And I'll never stand alone.
It's time for populism with a purpose. Welcome to Reimagine America with Joyce Cordi. Joyce is a businesswoman, not a politician, and she's here to offer pragmatic, possible, and post-partisan solutions for the 21st century.
This is my country. See it shining, see it.
Now, your host for Reimagine America, Joyce Cordi.
And welcome to the Reimagine America radio hour. There are a whole lot of people in politics and in the media whose purpose is to inflame your passions rather than to reason with you. My purpose is different. I've come to inform you, to give you information that will enable you to make an independent judgment on current events and encourage you to act on your judgment. We all know that as a businesswoman, I look at the numbers. And the numbers in the news this week, well, there's only one that's really important. This morning, the important number is 25%. 25%. That's the percentage of Californians who will not vote in next year's presidential primary because they've told the registrar of voters they have no party preference. Our guest this morning is Jim Rex, and Jim is here to tell us that there is a third way for today's political orphans. That people like you and I can be relevant again without surrendering to the extremes. Jim has had a long career at the University of South Carolina, and then followed that with a term as South Carolina's Superintendent of Education, working closely with then Republican Governor Mark Sanford. Jim was a candidate for governor of South Carolina in 2010. And since that time, he's worked tirelessly to create a viable alternative, a third way to restore sensible centrist government. First in South Carolina, and now he's taking that aim and that message across the country. He's instrumental in building momentum around a new alliance party. Good morning, Jim. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good morning, Joyce. Thank you for having me. I appreciate everything you are doing and have done with the Reimagine America.
Oh, thank you. We are trying our best here to be sensible centrists. And when you read through the Alliance Party platform, it is the most sensible, calming, centrist view of American politics. And I think it's where people would like to be around their dinner table instead of where they are. You know, that's we've been struggling with this mightily for some time now. Would you agree?
Well, Joyce, I do, and I think that's where Americans are around the dinner table. The only time we're not, looking at each other and talking and listening to one another is when we get in the political arena. And that's because of the way our two parties position their candidates and the way they position themselves when it comes to electing and re-electing those candidates. So, we're not naturally, normally a divided nation. We certainly aren't in our communities and in our families, but our political structure has created that.
I would agree with you, but we're seeing a shift in that political structure. We've seen a steady decline in party registration since 1990, and an increase in, whether you're called an independent or no party preference or whatever. About 42% of the electorate now do not align themselves from a wish point of view. We're not talking about the choices they get at the ballot, but where they want to be in the center of American politics. About 42% of today's registered voters are either independent or no party preference, depending on how their state calls them. And it's been a steady erosion, especially from until 2016, it's been principally an erosion from Republicans who've been increasingly doctrinaire rather than pragmatic. But we're seeing it even now from the Democrats.
Well, first of all, that you're right. That's the new majority. That's a larger percentage than people who self-identify as either Republicans or Democrats. So
Correct.
That's the new majority, which really has no option in most cases on the ballot. The other number that just came out, we're 3 hours ahead of you here in South Carolina, so I was able to see some of the morning talk shows this morning on TV networks, and there's a new poll out that is the largest number ever for Americans who say it is time for a third party, and that number is now 38%. So that we've never had that many Americans, over a third of us now, saying this is ridiculous. We need another choice, another approach to politics. So, yeah, the environment is changing dramatically, and those numbers show that.
I think you're right, and another number that will help to just solidify that for the listening audience is that in 1992, when Clinton was elected as a minority vote president, he got like 40% of the vote, that Perot's take was under 19%. So 38% without a candidate, without anything to focus around, as the Alliance Party will give them, are saying they want a different way. That makes me optimistic that perhaps this can move faster than your conservative estimate of a candidate in 2024.
Well, yeah, it can. And, whether it's a presidential candidate or it moves faster at the state level or in Congress, we'll see where those opportunities actually end up being. But, there's been a number of books written in the last decade or so about the tipping point, how change kind of appears to be slowly occurring until it reaches a certain critical mass, and then all of a sudden it seems like it happens very quickly. And, you can think of lots of things in America, for example, the whole national attitude about gay rights.
Correct.
That looked like that was never going to change, and then wham, it changed all of a sudden. And I think the same thing is going to happen with our political structure. The vast majority of Americans, in poll after poll after poll, are saying that neither party represents their interest. They realize that they are not being counted or listened to in the system the way it's set up now. It's a rigged system that doesn't account for them. And, maybe Donald Trump's election was partly a sort of a perverted outcome of that feeling of alienation and disenchantment. But this can't continue. This level of dissatisfaction with this two-party system just cannot continue. There will be a change. Hopefully it will be a constructive, peaceful change, and that's partly why the Alliance Party is in existence.
Oh, you mean I'm not the only person who thinks, oh, my God, what could happen? One poll I read this morning, because I'll fess up, I watch those TV shows after I do this show, was a Wall Street Journal poll that says Trump's approval rating last week was up to 46%, which is consistent with other two-term presidents. And frankly, I don't believe the country can stand in this do loop of investigation and hysteria for another 5.5 years.
Well, I had the same concerns you have, Joyce, and a lot of Americans are expressing it differently, but they're all saying essentially the same thing. They're concerned about the direction of the country. They're concerned about how divided we are as a nation. And this division, you really can't overstate the significance of it and the danger of it. Our enemies understand it, whether it's Russia or any of the others that want to see us not prosper. They realize our greatest weakness is our division, the fact that we do not work together as a team. You were talking about my background when you introduced me. I used to be a high school English teacher and a football coach also. And any reason I mention that is anybody who looks at team sports or competition of any kind, really, understands that when you put a divided team in any endeavor up against a united team, bet on the united team every time. Divided teams don't win. And America is a divided team, and it's divided, and it's playing against united teams like, Russia, China, India, North Korea, run down the list of all the competitors we have on the world stage. And here we are, this great country, this great, powerful country that's so busy fighting among ourselves because, again, of our way our two political parties rule and also the way they run for office, that we are weakening ourselves in a way that no external enemy could ever accomplish.
I think you're absolutely right. And on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and talk about how those divisions, how politicians use those divisions, and what the consequences are.